Hello and welcome to e-GMAT. We will solve question number 17 of OG Verbal 2nd edition by using e-GMAT 3-step process. In the first step, we will understand the meaning of the sentence. In the second, we will evaluate the errors in the sentence, and finally, we will review all the answer choices to get to the correct answer. So let's begin. Travelers to Mars would have to endure low levels of gravity for long periods of time, avoid large doses of radiation, contend with the chemically reactive Martian soil, and perhaps even having to ward off contamination by Martian life forms. So this sentence presents a possibility that may become a reality in the future. Would is the marker of that possibility. The sentence says that travelers to Mars would have to do the following: endure low levels of gravity for long periods of time, avoid large doses of radiation, contend with the chemically reactive Martian soil, and ward off contamination by Martian life forms. Now let us evaluate the errors here by splitting the sentence into its clauses. We have just one clause here because this sentence has just one subject-verb pair. Here, travelers to Mars is the subject. Now, Mars cannot be the subject of this sentence because it lies in the prepositional phrase. The prepositional phrase to Mars actually modifies travelers. Also, all the activities that are happening in the sentence is due to the travelers and not due to Mars. It's the travelers who will have to endure with low levels of gravity, and it's the travelers who will do the other things if they ever go to Mars. Okay, so logically as well as grammatically, travelers is the subject that will decide the number of verb to agree with in the sentence. Again, there are 4 verbs here attached to the subject. Now, would have is the main verb here, which has been followed by the infinitive to endure. Now, together, this makes the verb phrase. Now, this sentence presents a list of activities that would be done by the travelers if they go to Mars. So, in that case, only the last portion of the verb phrase avoid appears here because in the list would have to has been taken for understood. So we have the first verb here, which is would have to endure, but in the second verb phrase we just have avoid there because would have to has been taken to be understood here. Same is the case with content. So originally the verb is would have to contend, but because it's the past part of the list, would have to is understood here. But the last element we have here is having to ward off. Now what we see is endure, avoid, contend, and having to ward are logically parallel to each other because they all are activities to be done by the travelers if they go to Mars. But having to ward off is not grammatically parallel to endure, contend, and avoid. So this error here leads to the parallelism error in the sentence. Now also notice the structure of this last element in the sentence. The verb phrase in its entirety reads would having to ward off, which is grammatically incorrect. The correct verbs can be either would have to ward off or would be having to ward off. Would having to ward off is absolutely incorrect. So this sentence also has the verb tense error here. So now let's run the POE and find out what's the correct answer. Well, choice A is certainly not, as we discussed just now. In choice B, the wording is not parallel to endure, avoid, and contend, so it cannot be the correct answer. In choice C, we see that all the elements in the list are parallel now, so choice C is the correct answer, but we will still review choices D and E. In choice D, firstly we see that contending is not parallel to word, and again contending and to word are not parallel to endure and avoid, so D cannot be the correct answer. In choice E, we have the similar parallelism issue. Contending and wording are not parallel to endure and avoid. So as we found out earlier, choice C is the correct answer for this sentence. Now let's take a look at the takeaway messages. In a question pertaining to parallelism, we must be able to identify the correct list and must make sure that all the elements in the list are grammatically as well as logically parallel. Now, the concepts tested in this sentence have been covered in e-GMAT concepts level 1 parallelism identify and correct and level 1 parallelism helpful tips.